Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 255. Finally, we can begin to dedupe. Recorded on Friday, June 16th, 2023 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Yes, we shall. We have a very busy show today. I think we've got 9 news stories to get through and a whole bunch of other news. So without further ado, Tyler, let's just jump into announcements
Let's
and
do it.
events. Hey, if you want to know what's going on in the world of Zoho, you just head over to club.zenatta.com. That's our online social community. You can ask questions, chat with other Zoho users, drop a question for us into the Q&A for Azaz, which is Ask Zenatta anything about Zoho, and we will answer your questions there. But we also over at Club Zenatta, we keep track of all the events going on in the world of Zoho, not just ours, but ones that Zoho are doing, any other partners. By the way, any partners listening out here, if you're doing an event, send it over to us. We'll post it. We'll promote it out here. So you can go to the homepage. You'll see all the upcoming events here on the side. Or you can scroll down to announcements and events and just kind of dig into what's going on. We've got our Zoho Flow full product overview coming up. That's going to be with Greg and Jordan. And that's going to be next Tuesday, June 20th. Be sure to tune in for that. And of course, after the recording, that'll be live on our YouTube channel as well. Gosh, it looks like we've got 8 questions since last week coming in for us here, just 2 hours ago. So many questions coming in for Azaz. And we'll also, next Wednesday, when we do Azaz, we're going to be answering all of the questions that are from the Zoho Flow overview. So that's probably going to be a 2-hour Azaz, Tyler, I think, by the time we're done with that.
God only knows. It's going to be a long one.
Going to be a lot going on there. All right, with that, let's get right on into the news. Well, buddy, I'm not sure what to make of this, but Zoho Notebook now has Kanban boards. So if you want to, I guess maybe it's like using your notes as tasks kind of thing. Just kind of drag them around or just arranging all of your note cards into different categories.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I think there's like 2 parts to this, so they're spinning this off as like Noteboard for Zoho Notebook, meaning kind of like a different way to, slice and dice these different tasks. It looks cool. I mean, I can look at it, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see it kind of in front of us here where it's pretty much like it reminds me of Connect, right? Where we'll oftentimes reference Zoho Connect as some great Kanban boards. This is one of those things. It's a why not? It's kind of weird. You wouldn't really expect it here. I'm almost wondering, Brett, like, are they looking at some of those guys like, we've been playing around with Miro lately, which kind of gives you like a whiteboard type approach for note taking and things like maybe they're thinking about that kind of approach. Is this thing going to get like some flowchart builder elements, things like that? Maybe it's a weird one, but I am interested to see where it goes. Like Notebook, I think all of us like it. It's a good tool.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for me, if I'm doing tasks, I want to make sure they've got due dates and, things like that make them real tasks. So we'll have to just wait and see, get our hands on this and see if there's anything there.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's an interesting add-on. I can see, it might be just a great way. I mean, honestly, these little the other kind of notebooks that they've had in the past, right? Where you've just kind of got all these notebooks here. I find them okay, but I think it might be just cleaner to have everything on a board, as it is. So I think who knows, a lot you can do here. So kudos to the Notebook team. All right, and moving on, we've got 3 Bigin stories. A lot going on with Bigin. This one is pretty funny, just for multiple reasons. If you watched last week's, Bigin has introduced duplicate cleanup feature. So now you can dedupe your records inside Bigin. But we had a client who was actually asking us, if you watched last week's Azaz, he asked the question, hey, how can I automatically upload users into Bigin? And it turns out you can't. But I thought, well, I wonder, because you can sync from the CRM to Bigin. I'm wondering if you do a full import from the CRM into Bigin, if that would actually import all the users and keep them over. And it turns out it could and would. And so if the person had CRM, one thing you can do is you can import users into the CRM. And so you could import them to CRM, and then you could do that synchronization, and then boom, you'd have all your users imported into Bigin. Not the most, cleanest way of doing it, but I thought, heck, that'll work. Well, it turns out, Tyler, I guess how long ago did we turn on the sync feature on the back? We don't even remember, right?
Yeah, I don't even remember year. Probably when it first came out, because I remember when it first came out, you were testing it and it was kind of buggy because it didn't sync over like the stages and things
Right.
like that. And then you actually worked with the Bigin team. They were pretty great and helpful actually, and got it fixed. And then I guess
Right.
we just left it on that whole time, but it actually was never working until one fateful Tuesday when you
Yeah. So,
you pulled
so
that
we had
data.
on Zoho CRM side, we had that sync turned on. But when I went over to our Bigin instance, there were only like 4 users in there. So I'm like, well, clearly there's no sync. It didn't even occur to me. So I did the straight up import from CRM to Bigin, and it imported everything over 50, 60,000 records, including all the users, which solved the question that we had. But then somehow that triggered the long dormant CRM sync, and it didn't see all of the records that were just added from it into Bigin as dupes. It saw them as new records, and so we duped our entire CRM, everything. It was a lot of fun. So got that cleaned up anyway. But now, totally unrelated to that, if you have Bigin and you're using it, you now have the find and merge duplicates, similar as you do inside of Zoho CRM. So you can now easily go ahead and do a duplicate cleanup and clean up any dupes that you may have inside Bigin.
Yeah, it looks like similar to CRM, they let you pick a handful of fields that you want to use to try to identify duplicates. Right, so email, phone number for deals, probably deal name, accounts might be account name, right? So you've got those various parameters that you can use. So yeah, nice feature, kind of a need to have. One of those ones, if you asked me if Bigin had it, I probably would have assumed yes.
Yes.
But nonetheless, definitely something that you need, especially if you're going to point like web forms and things like that into Bigin to like capture those inbound. You just want to make sure you can clean this up when you need to. So yeah, nice addition. Obviously, the inspiration for our show title. We had a couple funnier but wrong, so we didn't go with that with this. This is
Yes, we did. All right. In more Bigin news, they've got a few more enhancements they want to talk about for June 2023. Record storage. Has this been increased? I'm taking it, Tyler. We
well, they're
increased it.
letting you see it now. Always important to keep in mind the file storage versus record storage. Record storage is literally like the amount of deals, the amount of contacts, and the data related to those actual records. Obviously, file management being different, that's like what you have attached to records. But now they're actually showing you that. So in the odd case, I mean, the limit's pretty high, I would imagine, for most Bigin users. Probably pretty rare that someone hits it, but now they've given you that view so that you can actually see how you're tracking against that limit.
Actually, is there that limit? Because in CRM, we've had CRMs with millions of records. I don't
There
remember
is a
hitting
limit. Yeah, there
there
is
is.
one in CRM. It's just extremely rare that someone hits it who's on,
Yeah.
professional enterprise, any of those plans.
This seems kind of low at 100,000.
Yeah,
That's Biggin's standard.
looks like
100,000.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
just about.
Seems a little low. Anyway, you can now rearrange your sub pipelines, which is extremely helpful. If you've built out sub pipelines, you're going to do that. You now have profile permissions for files. Again, this is a lot of stuff that's like in the CRM and now moving itself over to Bigin. So, kind of just some small little enhancements, but nice stuff from the Bigin team. And wrapping up the trio of Bigin stories, Bigin forums, and talk about dedupes like you just did, Tyler, right? All fits together. But now what
Yep.
they've added
So
in,
Bigin forms, I mean, this is similar to CRM. You can actually create little forms inside of Bigin that can be embedded on the website, right? They route directly in, create a contact, account, deal, whatever the data is that you're capturing there. So it looks like these are a couple updates here for those. First one being Google reCAPTCHA. That's great. You don't want spam coming through. That's just an industry standard way to kind of help prevent that. Obviously, you need to have a reCAPTCHA account with Google, kind of drop your keys in to make that work. And then a nice one here, you can actually drop when you're like creating an email template inside of Bigin. You can dynamically just insert one of your links to a form into that email. I'm assuming that it's going to sneak like a record ID so that it can tie it back, similar to like when you send a survey from inside of CRM. So that's really slick, actually, right? Like, hey, a deal gets to stage 5. Now we need this extra info from them, right? You can just make your form right there, send it out. Super easy. And then those forms can also go through a couple popular social media channels. It looks like Twitter, Meta, and
Yeah.
WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Fascinating. Speaking of CAPTCHA, I set up a new Twitter account the other day, Tyler, and
Okay.
I'm going through and I'm setting this thing up, and I'm like, okay, let's verify you. Now, we've all seen the street sign ones, right? Where it's like, hey, find 4 traffic lights, find crosswalks, where are the cars, where are the motorcycles, where are the bikes. This was so completely different. It had line art. So it had a duck, but the duck was drawn all in straight lines. Okay. And it had dots on the duck. And then on the other side, it had a person standing on one of the dots on the duck. And you had to use the arrow keys to move the duck, move the person in the bigger box so he was standing on that exact same dot. Cool. You do it. Now you have a bear drawn with straight lines and a dot, and rabbits and all sorts. 9 times you have to do this. 9
Well, you
times
got
you
to
have to
train their
scroll.
model, right? You want the account, you
You
got
have,
to train the machine learning model that they're
yeah. So
using here.
something that I think, their whole thing was, we want to eliminate bots. Bots are eliminated. There's no way, that
Yeah, I
anybody
had a
was
weird one
getting.
the other day. I don't remember what platform it was, but it had like on the left was a picture of a frog looking in a direction, and on the right was an arrow. And I had to click to rotate the arrow to face the same direction that the frog was facing. It's like,
Similar.
okay.
Similar.
Okay. I
Did you
mean,
have to do it like 9 times though? I
oh yeah,
mean,
3
this was,
times I had to make an
yeah.
arrow, and then it was like a frog, it was like a pointing finger, and then it was like some other animal that I had to line up. Yeah, adventures in CAPTCHA here on the CRM Zen Show. Slight tangent there,
All
but
righty. Moving on. We're done with Bigin, and we will now go into Zoho Writer, who has added translation. So you can translate entire documents. We were talking before the show, Tyler. I don't know. It seems like this must be ChatGPT. I don't know. They're not crediting it though.
well, if it was going to be ChatGPT, then you'd have to put your key in, unless they're kind of paying for the bandwidth on their side. For the rest of Zoho's ChatGPT integrations, you did have to put in your key in one place or
Okay.
the other. Yeah, I don't know where it would be pulling this from. It says, yeah, without relying on third-party translators. Yeah, no idea.
Huh.
I wouldn't think ChatGPT though, unless they're just doing it under their like consolidated account. But all their other, GPT integrations have required you to spin up your own account and get a key. So yeah, I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know what they're
So
using
they've
there
got
on the back.
50 languages
For
you
it.
can translate from now. So pretty slick,
Yeah, pretty cool.
you know, pretty slick. So nice job, Zoho Writer team. You can fully translate your documents. Alrighty, and moving right along. Zoho subscriptions got a few minor changes. On the You can now look at the individual subscription metrics in a monthly recurring revenue report. So in the past, if you went to your recurring revenue report, it would basically show you month over month over month. But if you actually click through into anything, well, gosh, you never saw what was behind that and who paid what. So basically, you can now drill down on your MRR reports. Uh, then on the Kenya edition, uh, what did we do? There's tax compliant. So if you're in Kenya, it's going to be tax compliant. And Stripe is now supported over in India, which is super nice. And I think that's about it. So just some small little
Quick updates.
enhancements.
Looks like some that were pretty highly requested. So for the people who were
Yes,
requesting them, congrats. And then I know up at the top here, that's the individual metrics around MMR. Like that's a need to have. Obviously, you should be able to do that, right? Drill down and actually
absolutely.
see what's going into the MMR of a particular customer. That's yeah, that's an A1 type of feature there.
Yes, it is. All righty, and moving on. Zoho CRM got they've introduced two new criteria fields for user fields displaying group information on user pages. Tyler, I kind of read through this, but I think this might be actually a notable or major update that they've done here. Did you get a chance to look through this?
Yes, I mean, essentially what they're doing, and they've been kind of working on this. It was like maybe a month back. There was the one where you could have it where people only see users in lookup fields that are in their like hierarchy. So
Right.
like West territory manager and then the West sales agents, right, would be able to kind of see each other through that flow. In this case, what you're doing, and this is pretty awesome, when you are actually going to go ahead and like create a filter, right, on a list. So let's say that you've got 1,000 leads, 500 are owned by marketing users, meaning we're not chasing them. 500 are owned by sales users. Now you could pull a list based on owner, but you're not specifying names. You're specifying roles, the roles that
Right.
they're in. So show me all the leads owned by someone in the sales role rather than having to specify each individual person. That's so nice. That's like a absolutely needs to have. Looks like it also works. It basically says you can say they belong to a role or they do
Yep.
not belong to a role or they belong to a group. Um, where groups are going to be kind of phased into this workflow a little bit more. So yeah,
Yeah.
super nice to have. There's so many different times where you just want to have these things organized based on the role, not the individual person, because people come and go, right?
Yep. And now
Last
you
little
can
one is the
add them
UI
into their
thing.
groups.
Yeah, UI thing. Just on the user page, you can see all the groups that somebody is a part of. So yeah, that's pretty nice to have as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's pretty. I think we might want to change that one to at least notable for CRM because
Yeah, I would
some of
I
these
would say
changes
so
around
for
this.
sure.
Yeah. Good stuff. Alrighty, and moving right along, if you are using Zoho Recruit, you now have expanded data capturing capabilities with enhanced tabular sections. So I kind of read through this, Tyler, and I'm confused as to what they've added. Can you help me out here? Because
Yeah, so let me, essentially
I
what
have
they're
looked
doing
through this.
here.
I'm not sure exactly what they've done.
So you've
Um,
got a couple different sections on the recruit page that they call tabular sections. So there are two that are default, and then you can create some custom ones. So an example, the two that are default are education details and experience details, where
okay,
you've got like, I went to high school, I went to college, I went to this master's. It's kind of like a subform, basically, same like data structure as a subform. So what they're doing is adding additional field types that you can add to those tabular groups. So let's say that as part of the experience details, I wanted to have the email address of their reference at each of those places if I could get it. Now I can
got it.
actually add that to the tabular group. So email, phone, date, time, number, currency, decimal, bunch of different field types can now be added to these. I believe as well you can create custom tabular views, and these are also going to be supported there. So they show an example of like passport details here that you can now put some extra types of data in. So yeah, I would say pretty slick. If you're going to be able to create a table of data, nice to be able to put things like dates, money amounts, things like that that might be relevant for it. So yeah,
I
nice,
have a
nice update
feeling
there.
that they've really been pushing recruit into the agency world, and this is something I would think if you're running an agency, you'd want to have too. So
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
good, very good. All right, and moving on, we have the CRM Community Digest for May 2023. And looking here, basically, if you're unfamiliar, every month Zoho drops. They look back at the previous month and they say, hey, here's everything that was kind of important to us in Zoho. We have covered all of this, but I just like to point this out. The link will be in our newsletter. Um, and it's just kind of worth looking at because one of the things they do is they talk about meetups, focus groups, they talk about useful discussions that happened over on the Zoho community, things that they picked out that were particularly helpful to other users. And I think these are really worth pointing out. So oftentimes you'll find what you're looking for here. because they're kind of really, they've gone through everything that happened over in the Zoho community last month and everything that happened, maybe some user groups, and they kind of put it all together, and they do a nice job on this newsletter all the way around. So be sure to check that out. And with that, Tyler, let's get right on into the implementation of the week.
Alrighty, so this is a build out here that we did inside of CRM, primarily driven here by Landon and Hector. I think a couple other devs might have had their hand in a cookie jar here and there around this kind of overall process. But these are kind of the two main people to build it out. So this is on a project where, a client had built out some pretty complicated methods of doing quoting through Zoho Creator. Kind of realized, like a lot of what we need is pretty simple. We really should just be doing this quoting from CRM. But they did have a couple little key areas that were really important that they were able to do in Creator that we needed to make sure could be done on the CRM side. One of those was basically dynamic approval workflows. So in this, client's use case, they essentially are, sending out these quotes that have a variety of different line items on them. And when there are certain types of discounts on a quote, it needs to go through an approval process before it can actually be sent out to the customer. So for this particular client, the types of discounts are really on a line item basis. Interestingly enough, they don't really need to look at the total discount amount because each individual line item gets assigned basically a max discount, right? So maybe for this type of cable, hey, we can discount that 10%. This thing over here, we can't go above 5% on a discount because it cuts too far into our margin. So it gets a little bit more complicated, right? Where we're not just looking at, hey, is the total discount more or less than 10%? We actually need to look at each line item and look at the discounts there. So essentially what we do is say that when that quote gets the line items added and we save that record, a little function will run that will look at each individual line item, calculate the discount being offered on that quote for the line item, and then compare that percent against a max discount, which has been filled in the CRM products module, basically like the reference point of what's okay or what's not okay for that product. If that function finds any of those particular items that have been discounted outside of kind of that max discount band, it'll go ahead and essentially like check a box, right? Update a status on that quote automatically, which immediately enters the record into the approval flow. So the nice thing here is that essentially in order to edit that line item list, the sales rep needs to edit the quote. Once they save it, it locks itself for approval, meaning that they actually can't generate the PDF from it anymore and actually try to send it to the customer. It must go through that approval process. At the tail end of the approval, there is some kind of logic and rules set up in the approval flow itself. But essentially what will happen is once it has been approved, that sales rep will get notified, the record will become unlocked, and they'll be able to proceed in sending that quote out to the customer. So really, it's just this one function doing a lot of work for us, looking at those line item specific discounts, using some logic. And then based on the output of that logic, it will either just let it go on through, right? Because our client basically said, hey, if nothing is discounted outside of those ranges, send it, right? We don't need to know about it. We don't need to approve it. But if we're kind of outside of band a little bit, we're able to enter it into that approval flow before that rep ever has a chance to send it out.
Super sweet. Very well done. The dynamic team of McCluskey and Gonzalez.
And I think we had an implementation of these two a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
But yeah, good job, guys.
Really good. All right, fantastic. And with that, let's move right on over to our code share of the week. So similar to last week, we have basically got a double whammy. We've got a triple whammy for you here over on CodeShare. So our CodeShare lives over on Club Zenatta. And we had a question that came in on a Zaz, which is kind of something that comes up all the time, Tyler, which is, hey, I have a field that it's in contacts. I want to update that field. I want to do something over in another module. Maybe I want to write that value into, the accounts field, or do something in accounts and I want to update some contact field. So Greg has basically shown you how to do that here. He's written out the code and given it all to you. And Elizabeth, super developer in herself, says much cleaner than the one she had written out earlier. And then on top of that, Greg has gone ahead and over at Azaz, he has gone through an 8-minute demo on this, where basically he takes the question, goes through the question, and then there's a whole thing around would global sets work and why not. Steps you through it, steps you through the code, goes through the entire thing. So you can actually check that out as well. I'm not sure, Tyler, if we've posted this over to our YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure we may have, just as the general Azaz issue, but I don't know if we've broken that out separately. But I will point out that in Club Z, you can also go and search every single Azaz issue and go through it, and everything is just completely broken down in here as well. So you can kind of go through and find what you're looking for and skip directly to those various sections as it lives over in YouTube. But super, super nice, kind of a basic thing I think that gets asked for all the time, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, the big one there is actually exactly what Greg showed, which is like that account status going down to contacts, right? Like, you know, and if you're doing contact to account, you can probably do it a little simpler than with the COQL. But Greg's just doing it a really slick way there. When you're going from like up to down in the data hierarchy, using the COQL query. But yeah, we get asked that type of thing all the time. So yeah, good. Shout out to Greg. That's a nice code share.
Yep. And then also Hector, he's working overtime. It's the implementation of the week, and he gave us a code share, which is mass deletions of items with initial stock in Zoho inventory. So this must have been something that someone needed to get done. And so we have dropped this in here to easily clean up your inventory and remove items that are no longer relevant and needed. So
yep. And this, I think, was in the case, and he kind of specifies it. Good kind of discussion at the bottom. Elizabeth chimes in, you know, like, hey, you know, be careful about the accounting implications here, because there are many when you're doing that. And so if you are going to use this code, I would recommend reading Elizabeth's question and Hector's response there as well, because he actually will detail out all the accounting implications of doing this. This is really something you would do to like reset your inventory account. Because you're making some pretty significant changes to your inventory valuation and obviously removing a lot of items from the system. So this is one of those cases where use with caution, and he kind of like prefixes and suffixes this code share with, you know, be careful with this. But yeah, good way if you do need to reset things inside of inventory. This will help you do that.
All righty, and with that, we could have put this probably over in Zoho News, but we'll call it our read of the week. So the Free Press Journal is reporting that Zoho is now trying to develop their own version of ChatGPT. It seems to be more around language modeling, which I know is what a lot of ChatGPT is, but they're going to try to do it. This kind of comes on the heels, by the way, of the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, saying, "Yeah, you're not going to do it for $10 million. That's hopeless." But I guess Zoho's going to try it anyway. So.
And I mean, obviously, cost basis, right, for developing a product like this in the U.S. versus India is pretty different. You know, interesting to see. You know, 10 mil is definitely not a lot to take a product to market, but you know, Zoho's done it before. Be interesting to kind of see where they can go with this. You know, they've already kind of rolled out a lot of integrations for ChatGPT, I think, to satisfy the market demand. And back when they were doing that, we kind of talked quickly about how surprising approach, given Zoho kind of does like to do it themselves. So I'm not very surprised to hear they're working on, you know, something similar in the large language model space. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see the race continue, right? As all these different orgs take products to market.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it's really going to be Microsoft is ChatGPT, right? They're OpenAI for all intents and purposes. And Google, be curious to see. They it seems to me that, as in all things, they may just crush everybody with it. right? I mean, they still literally have the very best assistant by far.
Yeah.
If you've got your choice between Amazon and Siri and Google and
Siri doesn't even belong on the
Cortana,
list.
you know, if you ask those four devices for a question, the best answer is 95% of the time it's going to be from Google. So it'll be kind of curious to
Yeah.
see
I
because they
don't
don't
know
want
if
to
you've
give up.
tried playing with Bard yet. It is live. You can go use it now, and it's actually connected to the full internet. But what'll be interesting, I think, over time with all these AI models is that a big part of the battle is going to come down to data access. And Google already has relationships with all the content generators, right? Because
Right.
AdSense, they've got basically a contract signed with most websites on the internet. So as you see, platforms like Twitter, Reddit, they start charging, right, for these language models to use their data to provide answers. Google already has this backdoor into like every website, right? They've got all the YouTube transcript data. Like, it'll be interesting to see how it all kind of shakes out because they are coming quickly. I know Bard's coming to Gmail here in a wide release within about a quarter and start recommending responses for emails, things like that. So yeah, it's not just the tech, right? It's the distribution. Who can distribute that tech into a huge amount of products? And that's where Google, I think, will be interesting in the space.
Absolutely. All right. With that, let's head on over to Zenatta. So, over at Zenatta.com, we have our weekly blog, and this one is Effective Workshops in the Tech Industry, a New Paradigm for Skill Development. And this is really taking
You
you
write this?
through workshopping, something we have been doing a little bit of, kind of get going ourselves here, which is where I think this came from, right, Tyler?
Yeah, I was jokingly asking, did Drew write this up? He's become our resident workshopper. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of just a different approach to doing like a meeting, right? Like it's not a meeting, it's a workshop. You have a pretty specific agenda, list, reference document, a couple like tools and processes that you can use in those sessions to really make sure that you're getting what you need out of it. You're staying on track. You're creating useful deliverables that everybody can take with them and run with. So
Yeah,
yeah, definitely
extremely
something we've been
helpful
working on
for.
internally.
Yeah, I mean, extremely helpful for organizing things, keeping people on track, making sure you don't, you know, go on tangents, right? You're staying focused on certain things, keeping people focused on certain things. We're about to roll some of this out with some of our clients who maybe really don't know what they want, or they're a little confused, and this is their first time. Believe it or not, there's still so many people. It's the first time they're really engaging in some sort of Salesforce automation whatsoever, or
Mhm.
customer automation, and this can be very, very helpful for that.
Yeah,
So
shout out
that
to the
is
team.
over
Nice
at
write up.
Sonata. Yep. And hey, if you don't know, also over at Sonata.com, we have our resource library. You can click in here and pick on any app, whatever Zoho app you are interested in, whatever app you need help with. You can go ahead and click right on into it, and any of the videos we've done on it will be there, and all the articles we've written about it will be there. And you know, it's all there for you. A lot of articles, man. Um, and anyway, all right there over at Sonata.com. And with that, Tyler, let's get into our tip of the week. Well, Tyler, looks like you did this one, serialized inventory tracking in Zoho Inventory. What do we got here?
Yeah, this is one where, honestly, I've had a couple prospect or like sales calls lately with some people talking through Zoho inventory. And one of the common areas that I think people get a little confused or just not really sure exactly how it's supposed to work in there is how do you manage serialized inventory? Where do the serial numbers go? How do you see like what all happened to a serial number? How do you take them out of inventory? How do you put them back in? So this video kind of runs through how to turn this on, how to pick some important settings about it. This is actually something I didn't know until I went to record this video, is that you can now serialize on an accounting basis, like invoices or bills, or on a physical basis from packages or receives, which is a huge update. I don't know how we missed that along the way because a lot of people want to use that physical method. Basically, like, hey, we don't know what serial numbers we're going to get from the vendor until we receive it and take it out of the box, right? Doesn't matter when we bill or pay for it. So kind of just a run through there of the backend settings, how to make some of those choices, and then where these things are going to show up in the transaction process, right? Where do you actually go to assign them? And then at the end of the day, after you've worked one through a transaction, how do you find it? The history of that serial number. When did you buy it? When did you sell it? Who did you sell it to? All of that stuff is actually tracked in here. It's just really non-obvious where it is. So hopefully this video will be helpful. It's kind of one I made in reaction to some questions I've been getting lately, where people just can't seem to find this and get it set up for themselves. So hopefully this will be helpful. Pretty quick video. And yeah, let us know what you think.
Very nice. Very nice. And as always, if you head over to youtube.com/Zenatta, that's where we keep all of our videos. We would appreciate it if you would subscribe. We are dropping more content than virtually anybody. Actually, I think we do more content than anybody, including Zoho, on a weekly basis. Hey, and we've redone our banner here now. Got all our little properties in here. Everything's up there. The new Zoho. What's that?
So it's a lot of stuff up there.
There's a lot of stuff, man. We got a lot going on. And we got the new Zoho logo for the partners. That's all good. But my goodness, this week alone, automated creation of Zoho CRM deals, Zoho Desk, overview of Shopify integration, Azaz, update related fields. It's a lot going on over here. So head over to youtube.com/Zenatta and please subscribe. We'd really, really, really appreciate it. Well, buddy, not bad. 37 minutes.
Got to that pretty quick. I was worried this show was going to stretch, but we were pretty expedient there, I think, through the news, which was good. Definitely could have.
Yeah, I was convinced we were going to. I thought it was going to be like the show Greg and I did, where we went on for an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. But was very good. So, all right, everybody, we wish you a happy weekend. And we hope you found this helpful. If you ever want to get on the phone and have a chat with Tyler and myself, we would love to talk with you. Just head over to Zenatta.com and click on Book a Meeting.
On the website is where you'll find complete episodes of the show, as well as links to all the stories we discussed today. We would love if you would like and subscribe here on YouTube, as that really does help us out. And as well, like and subscribe there on your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Friday.
Take care, everybody.